Imagine this. A woman named Celine, breathing the suffocating air of expectations, her very existence triggering a storm in those around her. A silent scream echoes in her mind, a question unanswered. Why does her mere awareness rattle the souls of others? The world clamors for her silence, a thick veil draping over the truth she holds. Celine knows the pain that curls around her heart. It's not weakness, but a clarity that cuts like a knife, revealing wounds not as flaws, but as scars of conditioning. She walks through life, the quiet rebellion of her very being shaking the foundation of those cradled in delusion. A painful but necessary awakening. This is no fairy tale. This is the harsh reality of a woman who dared to be awake in a world of the asleep. You know the moment. The invitation you accepted, not because you wanted to, but because the thought of hearing no hung over you like a dark cloud. Of course, I'd love to join. You wear that mask, a smile plastered on your face, while your insides twist like tortured roots. You're not alone. Celine lived it, saying yes when every fiber of her being screamed no. The seductive lie? That your endless availability will forge connections, that your compliance is the currency of love. But that's where the truth shatters the illusion. Real connection begins when you reclaim your voice, when your quiet no resonates louder than 1,000 yeses. Dig deeper. A shadow lurks beneath your kindness, whispering that safety lies in your surrender. You abandon your boundaries, convinced that emotional security is worth the cost of self-erasure. But as Jung warned, who looks outside dreams, who looks inside awakes. That cozy blanket of conformity? It's a snare, depleting your essence until you're hollow. You're not just losing yourself to keep peace, you're inviting chaos into your life by denying your truth. Celine realized that every sorry she uttered was a dagger to her own spirit, a ritual of self-abandonment cloaked in the guise of love. Now, peel back the final layer. You believe by being constantly available, you control how others perceive you. But in reality, you lose yourself in the performance, sacrificing authenticity at the altar of approval. Celine clenched her fists, recognizing that true power originates within. She discovered that her boundaries were sacred shields, not barriers. The moment she chose to exist without the need for validation was the moment she reclaimed her soul. Let that sink in. True strength isn't about bending to expectations. It's about standing firm in your own truth. Picture this. Celine standing alone, the world fading into silence, the echoes of past versions of herself crumbling into dust. Setting a boundary, a sacred act that reverberates through her soul. She cuts the cords that tether her to emotional chaos. This is no easy task. It's an irreversible, raw reclamation of self that slices through the illusions crafted by external validation. The twist? You don't need more healing. You need to stop lying about who you are. You never lost control. You gave it away. In the stillness, there's beauty. The first time you say no and feel the weight of relief. A deep breath after cutting the emotional cord. Solid. The quiet of a morning, standing alone in your peace. Don't keep this. Send it to the person still handing away their power, to everyone but themselves. Celine's journey doesn't end with boundaries. It unfolds into the quiet miracle of individual sovereignty. She discovers love not as a performance, but as a presence, a dance of souls unshackled from the chains of expectation. Those who once basked in her light now recoil in discomfort, for she no longer bends to their will. She learns to love fiercely, without self-abandonment, walking away not with final words, but with the quiet power of her truth. Each connection she sheds reveals the painful truth. Some bonds are born from shared wounds, not authentic hearts. And here lies the raw beauty of her awakening, the absence of need for validation or revenge. The privilege of a lifetime is to become who you truly are, Marek warned, reminding us that this journey is laden with grief, loss, and brutal self-confrontation. Celine, now a beacon of self-acceptance, no longer confuses love with performance. She stands whole, not because of her past wounds, but because she has dared to face them. She gazes into the mirror with unwavering eyes, unafraid. She has become sovereign, whole, not in spite of her truth, but because of it. Like Celine, perhaps you too are called to confront the illusions that bind you. The world may shudder at your awakening, but that's not your burden to carry. The truth is a weapon to wield, a light to illuminate the darkness of delusion. And as you stand in that light, perhaps you too will find the freedom that lies in the stillness of your own being, in the sanctuary of your truth. Let this be your call to sever the ties that bind, to step into the realm of radical authenticity. There's no comfort here, only the raw, unsettling truth that begs to be heard. Embrace it, face it, and let it propel you into the vast unknown of your own sovereignty. In her quiet defiance, Celine began to feel the ripple of her transformation. Each day unfolded with a fresh challenge, a test of her resolve to shed the skin of who she once was. She walked through her life sensing the vibrations of a world that thrived on chaos, where silence was weaponized and vulnerability was ridiculed. Those who once cherished her calmness were now threatened by her growing independence. The moment she chose to speak her truth was the moment she disrupted the toxic equilibrium that had kept her shackled. The faces of those around her morphed from admiration to disdain. They recoiled at her newfound strength, a mirror reflecting back their own unwillingness to confront the shadows lurking within. How dare she refuse to play the role they had cast her in? How dare she embrace her needs without apology? In their eyes, she became an enemy, a disruptor of harmony. But for Celine, this was the crucible of her becoming, the painful birth pangs of a woman who refused to deny her own worth any longer. The more she stepped into her truth, the more the fabric of her old relationships began to fray and unravel. She learned that the people who once clung to her like limpets in calm waters would drift away in the storm of her authenticity. This was not cruelty. This was clarity. Celine realized that in her absence, she revealed the truth about those connections, who valued her for her silence, and who cherished her for the woman she was becoming. Each severed tie was not a loss, but a liberation. Her presence, once smothered, could now breathe freely. And oh, the moments of beauty interlaced through the chaos. There was a magic in the morning light that danced through the trees, the way the sun kissed the earth with warmth. These moments whispered promises of freedom, urging her to stay the course. With each new dawn, Celine felt the weight of her past shedding like autumn leaves, revealing the sturdy branches of her soul. She found solace in stillness, recognizing that peace is not something to be sought but a state of being that rises from within. As she walked, Celine began to weave her own narrative. No longer would she allow others to dictate the script of her life. The boundaries she set became empowering markers of her journey toward individuation. In Jungian terms, individuation is the process of integrating the parts of ourselves that we have rejected, including the shadow, the hidden darker aspects of our personality. Celine embraced this concept, understanding that her anger was not a weakness but a protector, delineating her values and teaching her what she would no longer accept. With this realization, she learned to guard her empathy. No longer would she pour her soul into those who only sought to siphon her light. She began to recognize projection for what it was, the defense mechanism of the emotionally unexamined, projecting their own insecurities onto her. This discernment became a part of her armor, a shield against the noise of the world that sought to drown out her voice. The sacredness of her no became a mantra, a declaration, not just of boundaries, but of self-respect. As Celine stood resolutely in her truth, she came to understand the true essence of love. It was not the performance of affection, nor the superficial charms wrapped in roses and sweet nothings. Love, she realized, was raw, reverent, and resilient. It was the ability to sit with someone in their pain without feeling the need to fix them, the courage to walk away without needing to explain. It was the peace of being fully present, without strings attached or expectations weighing heavy on the heart. She learned to walk away without final words, simply choosing presence over performance. In this, she became unrecognizable to those who had only known her broken and dull to those who craved her pain. Her transformation was met with resistance, but she pressed forward, unwavering. Each day she shed the remnants of the woman who thought endurance was synonymous with loyalty. She buried that version with love and gratitude for the lessons learned. In her final awakening, Celine understood that some connections flourish from shared wounds rather than shared values. Those ties, too, fell away. Yet it was a miracle of sorts, not loud or boisterous, but a quiet revelation that wrapped around her heart like a tender embrace. It was the absence of the need for validation, for revenge, for understanding, that led her to the sacred ground of her existence. In reflecting on this journey, she recalled a profound lesson from Marek, that the privilege of a lifetime is to become who you truly are. But that privilege demands grief, loss, and brutal self-confrontation. Celine had paid that price, willingly and with grace. She no longer confused love with performance, presence with approval, or survival with connection. As the echoes of her past faded into memory, Celine stood tall, sovereign, and whole. The mirror no longer held the power to intimidate her, for she had become the woman she was always meant to be, unapologetic and fierce. Her journey was one of reclamation, not just of her voice, but of her soul. In this newfound clarity, Celine became a beacon to those still wandering in the shadows, a testament to the courage it takes to rise from the ashes. She had learned to stand, not as a victim of her circumstances, but as an architect of her destiny. It was a journey of deep trust, in herself, in her intuition, in her heart. And she knew, without a doubt, that every painful step had led her to this moment, a moment of profound awakening. So, as you step into your own journey, reflect on Celine. Understand that the world may challenge your awakening, but it is not your burden to carry. The truth is a weapon, a light to cut through the darkness of doubt. Embrace it. Let it guide you through the labyrinth of your own soul. Navigate the illusions that threaten to ensnare you, and allow the fire of your truth to burn brightly. You too can become sovereign. You too can rise from the depths of self-betrayal. Align yourself with the sacred force of your own being and watch as the chains of obligation and expectation dissolve. Challenge the comfort of self-doubt. Confront the shadows that's kept you under wraps for too long. Step into the world not as a reflection of others, but as a radiant soul, unafraid to claim her space. Moment. The sight of dragons soaring overhead sent shockwaves through the combatants. Fear and awe washed over them as they momentarily halted, gazing skyward. "Anus," a rebel called out, pointing to the sky. "Your dragons, they've returned." The sight of the beasts reignited the flame of hope in the hearts of those who had come to fight. They were not merely battling for power, they were fighting for the very essence of life itself. John felt the pulse of adrenaline surge within him. "We must unite! We cannot falter now!" he shouted, rallying his men. The presence of the dragons sparked a fire that ignited their spirits. In a moment of clarity, he realized that maybe they could forge a new path, one that drew strength from their legacies instead of allowing them to divide. With the dragons circling above, the chaos around them faded into a singular purpose. They were not just warriors on opposing sides. They were a coalition bound by a shared desire for a future free from tyranny. Anus raised his sword high, a symbol of his intentions, and the sight of the dragons soaring in the sky amplified their resolve. In that instant, John and Anus converged, swords clashing amidst the swirling eddies of fate. They fought not just for themselves, but for all of Westeros, a land bound by its turbulent history and a vision for a brighter tomorrow. "Together," John shouted amidst the tumult, "we can rise above the ashes of our past. Let us be the change this realm so desperately needs." Anus nodded, understanding the weight of those words. They would either become legends or fall like so many before them. As they battled side by side, the tide began to shift. Their forces converged, and the sight of Anis's dragons bellowing fire ignited a fierce unity among the fighters. The battlefield, once a place of despair, transformed into a crucible for transformation. But just as victory seemed within reach, a sudden, unexpected betrayal emerged from the shadows. A faction of rebels, disillusioned by Anis's ambition, turned on him. "We will not submit to the whims of a Targaryen!" they cried, raising their blades against their own. In an instant, chaos erupted anew. Jon, Arya, and Brienne fought valiantly to protect Anis, realizing that the battle for the future was not merely against their enemies, but also one against the fractious nature of their own ambitions. The warriors of Westeros were not just battling for power. They were fighting against the ghosts of their past, the divisions that had long plagued the land. "Stand together," Jon urged, his voice rising above the din. "We are stronger united than divided. We fight for our future." The flames of betrayal crackled around them, but in the heart of the storm, the bonds forged in battle began to shine through the darkness. Those who had once seen Aenys as a threat now recognized the possibility of a united realm. As the sun dipped lower in the sky, casting a fiery glow over the battlefield, it became clear that the true fight was not against one another, but against the fear and hatred that had divided them for far too long. Amidst the struggle, a choice lay before them, a choice that would define the course of history. Would they allow their past to dictate their future, or would they rise as a new generation, willing to forge a legacy built on unity and compassion? As the battle raged and the dragons circled overhead, a new resolve ignited in the hearts of Jon, Anis, Arya, and Brienne. This was not just the culmination of conflict, it was the dawn of a new era. If this tale of fire, blood, and the relentless pursuit of hope resonated with you, subscribe to our channel to journey deeper into the world of Westeros. Together we will explore the complex tapestry of fate, legacy, and the choices that shape our destinies. Join us as we uncover the untold stories that linger in the shadows, waiting to be revealed. The sun began to set on the battlefield, painting the sky with hues of crimson and gold, a reminder that even in the darkest times, hope can rise anew. And as the last echoes of battle filled the air, the legacy of Aenys Stormfire, Jon Snow, and Arya Stark hung in the balance, waiting to be written under the watchful eyes of the dragons and the spirit of the realm they fought to protect.